Hello everyone and welcome to the June horoscope for 2025, which honestly I'm obsessed with this month. It is so cute, it's really lovely. So this video is for Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces, sun, moon or rising. You can watch for any, but I always say that rising is going to be more accurate. So I'm going to kickstart off with Sagittarius, who I'm excited about because I'm a Sagittarius sun, and this is a really lovely month for you and you are somewhat of a main character this month. So June the 5th, Venus enters Taurus in the 6th house. Venus is domiciled in Taurus, which means this is home. It really likes to be there. In the 6th house, this is going to bring a lot of harmony to your physical health. So if you had physical health problems like injuries before, this is really great for balancing that out. Great for starting a new physical health routine, and that actually really works out for you. And also a lot of harmony with co-workers as well. Generally, this is a very sensual, creative, just delightful time. If you are wanting to start a relationship during this time, Venus and Taurus is a really good time to do so. The 6th house is not specifically love related, but I'm just going to say that it is quite nice. June the 8th, Mercury enters Cancer in the 8th house. So Mercury and Cancer to me are somewhat opposing in a way, because Mercury is very detail orientated and very good with communication and a little bit faster with things. Cancer to me is a bit more rooted and likes to take its time. So with this being said, if this is more nostalgic, almost sentimental energy in the 8th house as well, which is all about transformation and thinking about physical and emotional intimacy. Could be reminiscing on an ex, for example, or reminiscing on a time where you had better moments with somebody. You could also be maybe even feeling a bit more nostalgic for when you had, more opportunities with, having more money, for example. Like there's all sorts of different opportunities that could come up when this transit happens. June the 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer in the 8th house. So Jupiter has been in Gemini for the past year in your 7th house of committed relationships. It now moves to the 8th house. So don't worry too much if you're like, it's not in my house of love and commitment anymore, because the 8th house is still emotional and physical intimacy, and it's also still the house of sex as well. So it's still a bit spicy, there's room for relationships here. The 8th house is more transformative, and when Jupiter is blowing that up and expanding it, it can cause more issues with sudden events and things happening that you don't expect, and maybe more darker things in life. Having said that, the 8th house is also really fantastic because it is the house of shared finances and investments and savings. So Jupiter is going to expand that too. So you could find that you have more abundance and prosperity. You could have more savings, and you could also have unexpected money come from inheritance, or really when Jupiter's in the 8th house, it's literally what's like money falls from the sky type of energy. So things could happen suddenly. There could be some energy where you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. But generally, this is great for expanding intimacy with somebody, and also having more money. June the 11th, full moon in Sagittarius in the 1st house of self. So this is actually a pretty lucky, nice full moon. And in the 1st house of self, you're really letting go of something that you don't want in your life, and it's very toxic and energy vampire, and moving on to more fun things for the summer. You are really stepping into the Sagittarius energy of, I want to just rediscover myself, get rid of old routines, be a new me, work on new goals, work on my, reinvention, especially with like a new style. I can just see you like adopting a new style, and like maybe even booking a vacation and getting out there and being more like, this is going to make me happy. I'm going to serve myself. I like this for me. June the 17th, Mars enters Virgo in the 10th house. So Mars in Virgo is going to bring a lot of productivity and almost detail orientation to the 10th house of career. So this is really fantastic time to be more productive with your career, do a presentation, basically be very busy and be doing lots of things, having a lot of mental stimulation and energy. Also a really good time to spend more time and more energy with parents or children if you have them. But also just remember that to prioritize your self-care is really important. And also Mars in Virgo will sometimes expand a little bit or put focus on self-criticism and perfectionism. And in that 10th house of career, where sometimes we share imposter syndrome issues and have feelings of, I don't, my inner saboteurs coming out a little bit, that can happen. It's always really important to remember that pretty much everybody are just skating by. No one knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing, and that's okay. June the 20th, the sun enters Cancer in the 8th house, and this is the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. So this is really lovely time to spend time with your loved ones. In the 8th house, again, with somebody that you have an intimacy with. Again, doesn't have to be physical, an emotional bond, somebody that you're like, oh, I just love speaking to them and it's just so fun. Maybe even treating yourself. June 25th, we have a new moon in Cancer in the 8th house. Again, this is also a really lucky new moon and a great day of the month. Actually, one of the great days of the year. In the 8th house, this is a point of entry of manifestation for you to manifest, you know, more money, a stronger bond, transformation, internal work, whatever you relate to. Use Jupiter in Cancer that is bringing that energy to you and expanding it, and use the new moon as a single point of entry of that manifestation energy. June 26th, Mercury enters Leo in the 9th house. Mercury does somewhat better in Leo because it speaks from the heart and is more bold. So I prefer this to Mercury being a Cancer. However, I don't hate Mercury being in Cancer. I'm just saying it's slightly better. In the 9th house, this will bring some energy of maybe traveling, especially because Mercury in the 9th house, traveling, speed. This is really very good for studying and doing like a writing project, for example. And of course, it's very good to speak with conviction and be bold, but always back up your, you know, your statements, your very bold declarations with, you know, real follow through. Because it's very good saying, hey, I love you with my whole heart and bold, and then someone says, okay, marry me, and you're like, don't love you that much. You have to have a follow through with it. So Sagittarius, this is generally a really gorgeous month for you, which I'm very happy to say as a very large Sagittarius stellium. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that reading, and I'll move on to Capricorn. Hello, gorgeous Capricorns. I am a Capricorn rising, so I'm very excited about this. So this month is absolutely just, oh, chef's kiss for us Capricorn. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So I'm going to kickstart it off, and I'll explain why it's so gorgeous. I mean, if you are single and you want a guy, a gal, whoever you please, the time to do so. So June the 5th, Venus enters Taurus in the 5th house. Already a great start for romance. So Venus is domiciled in Taurus. That's where its home is. It likes to be there. 5th house of dating, creativity, and children. Gorgeous. Of course, Venus is all about love, harmony, sensuality, and, you know, Taurus is very sort of like luxurious. It rules the 2nd house. It's very like, oh, it's just very indulgent, shall we say. This is really great. If you're wanting to date somebody, this is the time to do so. Venus will be in Taurus the whole of the month, so this is a great energy to use. Great time to spend time with children if you have them. Be really creative, be sensual, tap into a very nice feminine energy here. Even if you're a man watching, tap into a nice feminine energy here, where you're a little bit more creative, a little bit more sort of like, I don't know, it's just a delightful energy. I think this is great. If you wanted to date someone, go for it. June the 8th, Mercury enters Cancer in the 7th house. You're going to hear the 7th house a lot, which is also fantastic. Mercury in Cancer is interesting because Mercury is a little bit more speedy to me. It's very precise, and Cancer is more rooted and a bit slower. So to me, it's like, okay, taking your time being precise, fair enough, but Mercury is a little bit faster. So what this does is it brings a lot of nostalgia and sentimental energy. In the 7th house of committed relationships and contracts, you could find that you are maybe being very sentimental about an ex, or somebody that you had very, very strong feelings for, or you wanted to have a very strong commitment with. And this is kind of the energy that's going to be leading you to decide what you really want to do in life. Because June the 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer in the 7th house. God damn, I've waited about 4 years for this. So this is gorgeous. Basically, Jupiter loves to be in the 7th house. The 1st, 2nd, 5th, 7th, 10th house, I just normally love. So of course, Jupiter is going to expand what house it's in. Cancer is all about, you know, the home and family, and a bit more about commitment and rooted energy. The 7th house is all that committed energy. So if you want to find a long-term partner, somebody that you will marry, someone that you're like, this is a strong, strong committed energy, this is the time to do so. It's going to be there for a whole year, okay? So you don't have to rush it, but while this energy is here, please do use it. I really felt so sorry for a lot of people who, you know, who get this energy, you know, because it doesn't come around every freaking day, and they don't use it. So it won't fall into your lap. Do use the energy that Jupiter brings, but generally this is going to expand that energy. If you have a contract with work, for example, and you want that expanding, that's also really great. I actually have evidence of this already, by the way. I literally had a message the other day that said, I would really love to extend this contract with you next month around the time, because it's literally smack bang around the time that Jupiter goes into Cancer 7th house. And it's so funny because I said to myself, I think you're going to get an extension on that contract. Nothing had been said, nothing had been hinted, but I just thought, 7th house extension contracts, I wonder if they're going to reach out to you, and they did. And I was like, oh, there's literal evidence of a contract, a commitment being expanded and extended. So it could be something like that. It doesn't have to be love, but if you are interested in love and getting commitment, getting family, And when we have that gorgeous Venus-Jupiter conjunction in August, which is like soulmate energy, you're damn skippy I'm going to be using that. Because I've been manifesting my ass off. So I'm telling you, you're damn well skippy, I'm going to be using that. Anyway, I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell. June the 11th, full moon is Sagittarius in the 12th house. This is actually a very lucky full moon, and this is also letting go of any toxicity, any negative thinking in that 12th house, any like poor feelings around yourself and love, and putting it aside and saying that. Almost having a bit of a breakdown, not in a, I don't say it in a bad way, like I'm having a full breakdown, but almost like I have to get to this point where I'm like, fuck this, I cannot live like this anymore. Then moving on to something more exciting, moving on to fun, to freedom, to an adventure, to getting a new routine and rediscovering yourself. And yeah, I think it's going to be really great for you actually. June the 17th, Mars enters Virgo in the 9th house. So Mars in Virgo is a little bit more detail orientated and brings a lot of productivity to, you know, a bit more finer details, things like working out, like admin stuff, I would say, like scheduling your appointments, making sure that your physical health is in check, prioritizing self-care. In the 9th house, you could find yourself feeling more like energy around traveling, and maybe even just seeing broader horizons, studying, for example, or learning something new, and also being tapped into your philosophical and spiritual kind of like routines in your life. You could also find there's some self-criticism there, but in the 9th house, take some time to be like, this is not me, this is just the ego, and you know, it's my inner saboteur that is doing this, because Capricorns never feel they're good enough. I can say this as a Capricorn rising in Venus, like we never think we're good enough. Everything we do, we're like, oh, could be better, could have been better. And it's like, do you know what, sometimes you need to give yourself a pat on the back. It's important. June 20th, the sun enters Cancer, which is the summer solstice. This is the longest day of the year. Again, 7th house, so fantastic to go on a date. I mean, sun's going to be in Cancer for quite some time, so it doesn't have to be this day, but I'm just saying it is the summer solstice, so it's the longest day of the year. It's a nice day to just go out and be fun and a bit more sort of like, you know, don't stay in the room and do nothing. It's good to get out. June 25th is another gorgeous lucky day, new moon in Cancer, 7th house. This is an entry point of manifestation for what Jupiter in Cancer is bringing to you, Capricorn. So this is a fantastic time to put down roots because of that Cancer energy and to manifest the fuck out of having commitment and love and energy, contracts, extended job. If you're on a secondment for a job, for example, or you just want like a permanent contract, manifest it. It's going to work out. Be like, you know what? I have full-time this. They love me so much that, of course, they would never let me go. I have an extension of this. Whatever you have to do, the new moon is going to bring that. Because like I said, it is lucky for other aspects and reasons, which I will do a separate video on. June 26th, finally, Mercury enters Leo in the 8th house. Mercury is a little bit better in Leo, in my opinion, than Cancer because it's more like bold and speaks from the heart, like Leo does rule the heart. And to me, it's a little bit more masculine as well. So in this energy, it's very good at making bold proclamations and declarations and being bold and speaking the truth with the 8th house, which is about intimacy. Actually quite good time to express your love for somebody. And again, with that 7th house energy, maybe it might move into something as well, but always make sure that you can back up what you say with follow through. Don't tell someone that you love them or that you're going to pay this amount of money and then you don't do it, because Mercury's not going to reward you like that. You have to be like, I'm going to do this, and I have all the... Basically, to quote 2.5 Men, do not write checks that your ass cannot cash. Not physically, but you know what I mean. Follow through. So Capricorn, this is the most gorgeous, gorgeous month. I'm so excited. I just feel like my life's about to begin. And of course, you know, Pluto had been Capricorn for freaking ages, and now it's not. It's in Aquarius. So, and also, as you know, a cardinal sign, please don't worry about Saturn being in Aries, because I know it's going to be, you know, Saturn is going to be, you know, really opposites Capricorn, and it's going to be causing issues, because Saturn in Aries is only going to be from the 0 to 1 degree point until about September. You know, maybe you have to start worrying a little bit more, you know, next year, but I really don't think for now it's that big of a deal. And, you know, take it from me, I'm not worried. And normally I will say if I'm worried, I'm pretty honest, but I don't care. Jupiter's gonna be in Cancer in my 7th house. I don't care. You can't tell me nothing. It's still amazing. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that, Capricorn, and I'll be moving on to Aquarius. Hi Aquarius, how are you doing? So this is the horoscope for June, which is shaping up to be a really gorgeous month for everybody. So let's just get started. So if you're an Aquarius, and this could be sun, moon or rising, June the 5th, Venus enters Taurus in the 4th house. So Venus is domicile in Taurus, which means it's its home. It really likes to be there. And this brings a lot of harmony and just gorgeous sensual energy. It's just a delightful transit. In the 4th house of home and family, this is a fantastic time to maybe start thinking about building a family if that's on your mind. This transit will be for the whole of the month as well, so it's not just for a day. This brings a lot of sensuality and pleasure. This could be really great as well for kitting out your home, buying more things for your home, and maybe even buying a home as well. This is a great time to do so because Taurus is also rules the 2nd house of finance, which is really great for getting loans approved, mortgage, that kind of thing. So generally it's just delightful. June the 8th, Mercury enters Cancer in the 6th house. So Mercury and Cancer are interesting because Cancer is very rooted and a bit slow, and Mercury is more detailed and a bit faster. So this brings a lot of sentimental energy, almost nostalgic energy. In the 6th house, you could be maybe reminiscing about old times that you worked with co-workers, or maybe an old co-worker reaches out to you and they're like, hey, I have this like leaving due, and you worked with us like a couple of years ago, do you want to come? Something where it's like things from the past kind of come back a little bit, and it's kind of up to you to say yes or no, I don't want to do that. But generally it's like, I feel it's almost like you can teach an old dog new tricks in a way, like even going to do an old physical health routine or something where you're like, I'm almost going to get back to basics and see how it works out for me. June the 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer in the 6th house, so it's going to be here for a whole year. Jupiter is exalting Cancer. It really loves to be there. It did not like being in Gemini. So in the 6th house, this brings great expansion to physical health. And again, I have to be honest here, if you have a pre-existing injury, then Jupiter may expand that. But what I've always learned from my research and from my own experience, because I had Jupiter just in my 6th house, it's always going to get slightly worse and then it will get better. So like if you have a physical health issue, you'll probably get a little bit worse and then it will heal. Because I had this problem with Jupiter in Gemini, right? And I was like, why is my freaking back playing up? Like, never have back problems. And then it was like, oh my God. And I literally could track it to the day when Jupiter was doing its thing. And then I thought, I know Jupiter's going to expand it and then I'm going to be okay. And then I was. So if you do have a pre-existing physical health injury, then it's probably going to expand before it gets better. If not, great physical health normally. Also, you could be expanding people you work with. If you own a business, for example, you could be taking on more staff, more clients, more suppliers. Could also be welcoming new people into your business. You could also even be moving a job where you have more co-workers, for example. So you move from a team of 3 to like a team of 20, for example. Generally, there's expansion there. Some of you could be buying a pet or adding a animal to your pet collection, buying, a dog or a cat or something and welcoming them to your home. And I think that also could be really lovely as well. So generally, Jupiter in Cancer in the 6th house, I think it can also be like a positive and negative thing because, like I said, Jupiter will expand whatever's there, so it can be like good and bad. But generally, this is going to expand a lot of spiritual enlightenment for you, and you could also find that you have a really a good physical routine, like a actual productivity routine that works really well for you. Because the 6th house is also very productive as well, so you could be finding that you're getting so much done, and that can be really beneficial for your career. I mean, I can speak from experience where, I actually did take on a assistant as well. So I built my job up a little bit more. And so it was like expanding my team. So I also did have that with Jupiter in my 6th house. And I had also some, like I said, a little bit of an injury. But also I should add that I was super productive. Like I've never been more productive because the 6th house is productivity. And also my gym routine was amazing, like really consistent with my gym routine and losing weight as well. So it is actually quite good. We also have a full moon in Sagittarius in the 11th house on June the 11th. A lot of 11/11s here. This is actually very lucky full moon, generally very nice. And what's really good about this is that you're letting go of any old routines, any old friends that you don't want anymore, any networking in your career where you're like, don't really want this anymore, and moving on to the future, right? Which 11th house is Aquarius, so you like to do this. Moving on to the future, a quest for adventure, rediscovering yourself in a way, and using the insights from any kind of old routines or anything where Mercury in Cancer is giving you that nostalgic, sentimental feeling to move on to something new. You're almost like, you know what, the past is the past, and I don't want to keep lamenting on it too much. June 17th, Mars enters Virgo in the 8th house. So this is an interesting kind of energy because Mars is very courageous, it's productivity, and it is also, you know, sex drive. The 8th house is then sex. So this is a bit spicy. You could find that your libido is quite high. Virgo is very detail orientated as well. So libido could be high, but you'll also have a feeling of you're overthinking it a bit too much. So anyone who's got a pre-existing intimacy problem, you could be like overthinking it a little bit. I'm being very insular here. I'm being like almost picking a very niche subset of people that have this issue. But I have to mention it because when I do these horoscopes, people always say to me, how did you know? And I'm like, it just normally does hit these kinds of entry points sometimes. It is an ideal time to prioritize self-care, to work on paying off a debt, for example, to work on saving and investing for the future, and actually being a bit more motivated to build up a bond with somebody, both emotionally and physical as well. But again, perfectionism and self-criticism can really leak in, and the 8th house is a little bit darker, a little bit more, oh God, you know, in my head a little bit. So just be aware of that. June 20th, the sun enters Cancer in the 6th house. This is the summer solstice, so this marks the longest day of the year, and this is a lovely time to spend time with your loved ones, and maybe even, you know, if you're going to be working that day, have a nice harmonious day with co-workers. June 25th, new moon in Cancer in the 6th house. This is a gorgeous, very lucky new moon, and it's an entry point manifestation for what Jupiter in Cancer is bringing. So if you want to expand anything in the 6th house, or generally just manifest anything, I mean, it doesn't have to be in the 6th house. I'm being very specific here. It can be anything you want to manifest. This new moon is actually the time to do it. So if you want to manifest anything, this is a good time. June 26th, Mercury enters Leo in the 7th house for you. So this is actually a really good time to tell somebody that you like them, or to try to build a relationship up. And like I said, Venus and Taurus in the 4th house as well, kind of building up on a family, trying to get a commitment. Because Mercury in Leo is very bold. Leo speaks from the heart, and it is like these very grand declarations and proclamations and saying, I love you. If you want to tell someone that you love them, this is the time to do so. Be very bold. You're damn skippy. Be like, I love you, but always back it up, right? Because when Mercury's in Leo and you say something very grand, you do something very grand, you're like, I can't live without you. And then they go, okay, prove it. And you're like, I don't really know what to do. That's kind of the energy where you're like, I need to have the follow through, basically. Because it's bold, you have to be bold too. Gemini, Aquarius, I know some of you are going to be like, this was boring as hell, nothing's happening. 6th house is a little bit more of a boring house, but you know, actually it's kind of misrepresented because it means a lot of different things. So, you know, I didn't tell you the whole gamut of what the 6th house is going to mean for you when Jupiter's in Cancer, but it's expansion in general. And I will say, and again, I'm not speaking from all the other aspects and transits that happened in my life, but as I've just had Jupiter in Cancer in my 6th house for a whole year, career, money and productivity has never been better. It really had pushed things so far for me, and I actually generally think it's really positive. So this is quite nice, and like I said, Jupiter will go into your 7th house next year, so it's just nice. It's just nice. I like that. Mars and Virgo in the 8th house, and then Mercury and Leo in the 7th house, giving a lot of energy to family, to commitment. It's a mixed bag. I think it's pretty nice. When I say a mixed bag, I don't think positive and negative. I mean, it's a mixed bag of like things that are happening. And I think that's quite nice. Some other signs are like they're only getting love, they're only getting career. This is like a mix of everything. So I think that's quite nice. Anyway, Aquarius, I'm going to stop trying to justify my horoscope and move on to Pisces. I hope you enjoyed it. And last but never ever least, and I say that because I'm a Pisces moon and I freaking love Pisces, we are going to be doing Pisces. So I hope you are ready for this June horoscope because this is really gorgeous. So June the 5th, Venus enters Taurus in the 3rd house. Venus is domicile in Taurus, which means it's its home. It likes to be there. In the 3rd house, this brings a lot of harmony and pleasure to the 3rd house of communication. So if you want to tell somebody that you like them, or you're currently speaking to someone and dating somebody, communication is really gorgeous. It's very witty. It's just delightful energy. Also great for productivity, getting more harmony when it comes to maybe submitting like a thesis or something you're studying with, maybe even a book, and also coming across very attractive on social media if you're wanting to do that as well. This is just really, really delightful. Like I said, Venus belongs in Taurus and is super gorgeous. June the 8th, Mercury enters Cancer in the 5th house. So Mercury in Cancer will bring a very sentimental, almost nostalgic feeling. So you may be reminiscing about an ex because you're trying to figure out what you really want from your dating life, if that is, your circumstance. You could also be reminiscing on times you had with a child, for example, if you have children, or maybe even reminiscing about your own childhood because you're thinking about growing a family. And the reason I say that is because there's a really, really high chance for the next year, Pisces, that you will be building a family, or thinking more about trying to expand a family and a romance. So you will be embracing a very nostalgic feeling here. June the 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer in the 5th house. This is gorgeous. This is going to bring so much expansion to the 5th house of dating, creativity, and children. Generally, by, rule of thumb, Jupiter in the 5th house is considered very beneficial. So Jupiter will expand what house it's in. Cancer is all about home and the family, and the 5th house is, of course, children and dating. So this is going to expand the prospects and the opportunities to not only, have a really nice relationship, but also to build a family. So this is very spiritual enlightenment and very intuitive as well. But again, it's going to expand that. So if you already have a child, you might find that you have another child as well, because when Jupiter's in the 5th house, it often means multiple children. And also it's a really good energy for being more creatively expressive, and maybe even dating somebody that turns into something more committed, but also dating lots of people and finding fun in that as well. Depends what kind of person you are and what you're trying to achieve from your life. But generally, I see this as a major sign for the next year of having a child and, building a family. If you're really not interested in that, or for whatever reason it's just like, this is just not in the cards for me, then you could also find that a family member or a very close friend of yours actually has a child, and that impacts your life as well. Generally, building energy, family, dating, creativity, that is also going to be quite good. I will also mention, because I have to be very honest about this, Jupiter in Cancer in the 5th house will also expand your exposure to risk as well. So be a bit careful about doing things that are very spontaneous and you don't think about them too much. Always do things where they're rooted and they're meant to, they're planned. But Cancer likes that. Cancer doesn't really like to be too spontaneous. It likes to be rooted. It likes a plan. So, and it's the mother of the Zodiac as well. So it's like, why are you being like this? Don't be so crazy. So just be careful about risk, and also spending a lot of money and being a little bit too frivolous, because Jupiter's going to expand that kind of energy too. Anyway, this is generally really nice, but I'm just putting a disclaimer out there. June the 11th, full moon Sagittarius in the 10th house. This is actually a very lucky, nice full moon, and it's really great to let go of a project at work, for example. You could be moving on to a new project, you could be moving on to a new role, maybe even getting a new job. Generally, this full moon Sagittarius is not something that's forced upon you. Like I said, it's quite lucky. It is actually more, I'm letting go of this toxic energy because I'm trying to rediscover myself, and I'm in particularly wanting to let go of old routines. So that energy is kind of like fixed there as well. If you're not interested in letting go of something to do with career, because maybe you don't have a job, you're retired, for example, or you're just not interested, then this could be letting go of something to do with family, like being a parent, children, or anything to do with your reputation, how you feel about yourself. June 17th, Mars enters Virgo in the 7th house of committed relationships and contracts for you. So this will maybe heighten my English day, heighten your libido, because Mars is a sex drive and the 7th house is kind of romantic. So libido could be a little bit high, or just finding that you have really strong intimacy with somebody and it's like, oh yeah, the physical spice is there. This also will bring a lot of productivity and courage to you, maybe going after a contract that you're trying to extend, like I said, maybe a new job, for example, something where you're getting more commitment and being a bit more bold about it. There is a real level of self-criticism here and obsessing over flaws. You could also find that you're obsessing over flaws in a relationship you're currently in, and maybe picking fault, getting the ick, or maybe just thinking like, I don't know why, I'm getting a weird feeling about it. Mars can sometimes bring a bit of a temper as well, so you're like getting angry at people just doing things like that in your relationship, and you're like, kind of pissing me off a little bit. And because Virgo's the detail, it's kind of picking at it a little bit, so just again, be careful of that. June 20th, the Sun enters Cancer, and this is, I just spat. June 20th, the Sun enters Cancer, and this is the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year in the 5th house for you. Obviously, Sun will be in Cancer for, like a whole month. It's not going to be just there for the day. This is just the longest day of the year, which is a great day to actually have a lot of fun, be creative, do something exciting, maybe go out with friends, go on a date, that kind of thing. June 25th, we have a new moon in Cancer in the 5th house. Wowie, Skippy, I freaking love this energy. So this is also a really lucky new moon, which I'll do in a separate video. But this is an entry point of manifestation for what Jupiter and Cancer is bringing. In that 5th house of dating, creativity, and children, again, this is all about putting roots down and encouraging us to look at our intuition and manifest what we really want from this house. We can manifest anything we want from this new moon in Cancer, by the way. It doesn't have to be the 5th house. I'm just saying that the 5th house is kind of blessed by this. So if you're wanting to manifest, again, children, dating somebody really nice, having more dating prospects, for example, like you live in a small town, you're like, there's freaking no one around, like people landing around, you know. And also, it's so funny because people will say, oh, how can I do that without a dating app? Trust me, I live in a really like random town, right? Like, I don't think it's very famous. I don't think it's that important, but there is places where there's a lot of foreign people, there's a lot of interesting people I've met, and, you know, had really strong connections with people that I never would have ever thought would come to a town like this. So I'm just saying that you can manifest it. And I also manifested it. I was like, who's going to come to this freaking town? Like literally, I'm not going to say where I live, obviously, but when you go to the airport near this town and you see things like invest in this town, everyone will say, look at their friend and go, who's going to invest in this shit? Like literally, it's like, it's not the best place. Having said that, there is a lot of manifestation energy for, you know, dating opportunities and whatnot, creativity, children. I feel like I went on a tangent there, but I was trying to prove my point that you can manifest whatever you want, you know. Some people manifest like celebrities popping up out of nowhere, right? Because celebrities do stop in random towns when they're on tour somewhere. And it's like, what are you doing here? It's like, Tom Hardy, the actor, he was in Tesco in Stockton-on-Tees. Who'd have thought? My dad's from Stockton-on-Tees. We were like, what's Tom Hardy doing in Stockton-on-Tees? We're like, oh, apparently he's got family there. So it's like, you never know. Anyway, tangent. June 26th, Mercury enters Leo in the 6th house. Mercury does a lot better in Leo than it does in Cancer, in my opinion, because it's faster, it speaks from the heart, and it's bolder. And it's also more masculine as well, so it's really good for like taking charge of communication and productivity. So in the 6th house, this is great energy for being bold when it comes to speaking to co-workers and speaking with conviction and saying, no, I know what I'm talking about, or I want this project done this way. Also great for real speed with physical health and also finding that workout routines are doing well. Generally, this is very good for just being bold with your declarations and your proclamations, but always backing up what you say with follow through. So don't say something that you can't follow through on, because Mercury's not going to reward that. You've got to be very like strong in your conviction when you're saying things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, Pisces, and that is all of the horoscopes done for June. This is generally a gorgeous month, so let me know if you're excited for this month, what you're most excited about, what you're most scared of, what you're most like intrigued by. Let me know. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for my next horoscope.